Okay, here we go. Nice. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Jed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Diego's agent, right?
Yes.
We were very thrilled to meet you finally.
Same here. Yeah.
Mr. Diego is a big name in Brazil,
Yes,
and
he is.
we feel very lucky to get in touch with you and talk about this potential joining for our team.
Yeah, no, it's very excited to join your team and to get back at the top level again in football. And obviously he has a history with your team, and he's very excited to have that opportunity to join again.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe we could talk a bit more about the role that you see for him within your team as a player.
Yes, of course. Mr. Diego, he actually contacted us first, knowing that one of our stars is actually having health problems.
Right.
So for sure, I mean, regardless, Mr. Diego, if he joins, he'll definitely be a startup in our
startup in the team.
Yeah,
that is something that's definitely important for him. And as you can tell, he did have his weight issues the last few years, but he's fully back in fitness. He's training, he's lost weight, and he's actually back to an incredible level as a player. So I think it would be a very good season for him if he joins your team.
I see. If you don't mind, how's he going recently? Because that's one of our concerns here. I mean, he, in case of capability and sport athletics, I'm sure there's no doubt he is very good still in this age. But in case losing weight, get back in shape and everything, is he progressing well? I mean,
he's progressing actually very well, and he's over the injury, and he's actually in very fit shape. So during the off season, he had a rigorous fitness program that he followed, which helped him lose weight, and then helped him recover from the injury. And I've spoken with him a few times, and I've seen his progress. And he's in very good physical health, so he's very well prepared for the start of the season.
Great, that's good news.
And he's confident that he could be a very good asset and a good player for Rio's team.
Awesome, nice. So the things I mentioned this is the reason I mentioned this is because we have a kind of a timeline inside our team that right now, in case of our position, we do have couple of very potential young players in our team, although they are very young and kind of immature for them to be put on the starting lines. But here the thing is that if Mr. Diego, no doubt again of his capabilities, if he shows something that might not match our expectations, there are possibilities maybe our young guys will just catch up. Make sure the team runs in a kind of a competitive level.
Right. No, I actually doubt that it will get to that point because he. So not only did he gain back his fitness, but you can tell as a player for his age, he's actually a lot more mature than the player he was in the past with Rio. And so I've spoken with him, and he recognizes and he believes that with the experience that he has and the knowledge that he has, he can set a good example for the younger players. So he's actually very excited about the opportunity not only to join the team and be a starter on the team, but also be a role model for the younger players. And he loves the club. He wants to see the continuity. He recognizes that the club has had some tough years in the last 3-4 years.
Yes.
But he loves the challenge and the fact that not only will he have a challenge to score goals and play as a forward and be successful, which physically he is in the right shape to do that, but it's also being able to help the inexperienced young players to be more mature and to give them advice and help them with the training as well.
Great.
So he's excited for that role too.
Us too. I mean, a great player. It's gonna be really good stories for the combination of a beaten up team and a redempted kind of a player. Media's love that kind of stories.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think it would be very good publicity for the player and for the team as well.
Great.
I think it's exactly that spark that the team has been lacking the last few years. I think he can bring that spark, bring the attention.
Of course, all the experiences. I mean, Mr. Diego has been to the top. I mean, he's the player, so there's a lot of things that if he's willing to teach those young guys, in our team, right? Okay, so we're on the same team. We're on the same page. Yes.
Yeah,
so let's talk about expectations for allowance and the income. So for us, we actually are willing to offer a very very high price for Mr. Diego.
Okay.
We want Mr. Diego to match the level that he earned back in the previous league, and double that price. So we're offering 220,000 per year as a whole package. Since we know that Mr. Diego has been through some tough times during the previous league and the league before that, but I'm sure that in case of capabilities, Mr. Diego's is worth far more than what he earned before.
Right.
So that's why we offer this price.
Right. May I, just out of curiosity, know the range of price that you're paying for those reserve young players that you have on the team?
For reserve younger players, okay, we actually have a number here. So for reserve players, we're as far as around 140,000.
Yeah. So while I understand 220,000
yes,
is a very generous offer, we do still though have to keep certain things in mind. And as you're very well aware in the league, that members who are on the starting team are usually paid more than double what the other players receive who are on the bench. And considering that the younger players, chances are, more than confidently they will be on the bench most of the time because Diego is in a very good form. So then we expect something close to double that.
We certainly hope that happens.
Yeah.
But there are like certain risks. Not to mention, according to tradition, we're not saying that Mr. Diego is not capable, but for a player at certain age, you really can expect that his salary is gonna increase significantly during the last period of his career life.
We understand that too, but then when you compare him to starting players on other teams that are getting 320,000 as a salary, which is double than the average when he used to be a few years back when he was with Rio. We have to also keep in mind, he has his reputation and he has his followers, he has his supporters, and obviously for him to join the team, if he's going to come back as a reputation as the savior of the team and the one who's going to re-energize the club, we need to pay him a salary that's matching that reputation as well. Okay. And that's kind of like why we think, obviously we don't expect him to get the 320,000 that other players on other teams get for age reasons, and also the other clubs might be able to afford more. But that's why we think probably something around the 280 would be more reasonable for this service. Okay,
but may I ask a question? Do you know why Mr. Diego earned only 175 the year before and last year's 100? We're just curious, why would this happen?
Well, it was mostly because you have to take into consideration he wasn't a starting forward on those teams. He was taking more of a reserve role, and as I mentioned, usually those players earn half of what the starting forward gets paid. So the average is around 160,000 for reserve players today. So 2 years ago it was probably less than that, and he was between the range of 110 and 175,000. Yes. So he's still within that range, and so that's why we're hoping that with this offer with Rio again, we'll be within that range of a starting forward on the club. And we understand it's not going to be on the high end, obviously.
Yeah, I know. So, okay. The thing is that I'm being put in a very kind of tough position here. A bunch of very talented young guys are also trying to negotiate the wages with us very soon. And, setting a very high bar here may affect my future negotiations. All the players that's coming to negotiate with me. Right. I mean, they're going to say, this guy from the other team that earns only 100 and now it's getting 280. So we would like to have something, a very significant wage increase for our future contract as well. So this is a very kind of a strong signal for them to increase it,
Right, but I think so. I understand that type of pressure, but I think that pressure exists regardless whether Diego joins or doesn't join your team how much other clubs pay for their players has nothing to do with how much
they're
pay
gonna
for their
compare
team, right?
this. You know, the big brothers, they're standing there, they're earning like
But that
2
could be a
times,
great
3 times.
example, right? I mean, that could be the motivation, telling them that if you get to Diego's level and Diego's reputation, you will make the same amount of money because then they would deserve that money. So, I mean, it's also a signal you're sending to those young players, right? If you're only paying a top player 220 as a starting forward, and they're already getting probably 160 on your team or 140 on your team, what's their motivation to play even better and get to that role, right? So, I mean, for me, we just have to keep mindful of that, I think, in my opinion. I agree with you that you don't want to overpay every single player on the team because you can't afford that. But then it's also the signal you're sending for your younger players. And we have to keep in mind, Diego is now a team player, and he wants to be a role model for those players and a good example for them and help the team get back to where it deserves to be.
Okay. So, one thing that I think I should mention to you is that although I know you probably heard a lot of it, our club is currently running in a not very healthy kind of situation.
Yes,
right?
I understand.
Kind of in both ways. One is that we have a very huge financial pressure because of the, over years bad performances of our teams, which I'm sure is going to increase in the future. But this is actually a very important criteria that we evaluate whether we hire a player or not, because honestly we can't afford to have so much money just pour there and sign great players. The other thing is that the reason that we want to sign Mr. Diego is that we think that he's definitely going to improve our performances in the league, because for the last 2 years we've been risk being downgraded to another.
Exactly. If you don't finish in the top 18 this year, then there's a good chance you get relegated, which would be very bad for the team.
But the thing is that, okay, can we play it this way? 280. We can pay you 220 for the whole season until the point that we are guaranteed not being downgraded and be safe for our position in this league. And we pay you the rest of the 16.
Right. So the 60K would be
kind of
a bonus.
Kind of a bonus.
But I was thinking something.
If we're downgraded, I think the whole stake is not kind of.
Yeah. So the 220 is guaranteed amount, and then the 60K is pending.
Exactly.
Pending bonus.
We win a certain amount of games, then we're guaranteed to stay within the league. Then the 60 is guaranteed yours.
That is an interesting offer. I'm trying to think also a bit maybe outside the box where we can create a bit of value for both the club and the team. I understand the risk the team is taking, and also understand how devastating it would be for the club if the club doesn't stay in League A, Division A. Maybe as a counter offer, maybe what we could think about as well is, because of Diego's reputation and the followers he has at the club, we all know that your attendance has dropped actually significantly in the last few years. And so, having another decline in attendance would be devastating for you.
Yes,
we can both agree that, signing Diego again will boost
reputation, right?
Right. So then maybe one thing we could do is that 60K bonus, maybe we can structure it in a different way. So maybe we can split half based on 30K if the team stays in the Division A and finishes in a respectable position, and doesn't get relegated. So based on that, there's that 30K, and maybe the other 30K would be based on ticket sales.
I like that.
So we could do that, based on the ticket sales. I believe the price was around $5 as an average ticket price. So maybe we can take a portion of that $5 up to a cap of 30K because of the extra attendance due to Diego's signing on the team. So that way, because we're both confident that the attendance will go up, so we'll have 220 as a salary and then up to 30K based on attendance. and then which could be $1 per ticket or whichever it is we can agree upon. And the average price is 5, up to 30K. So we have a 35,000 stadium, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get to that. We'll probably get it maybe in the first 10 games, and then the other 30K would be his bonus if he helps the team not get relegated to the division.
I think that's a very interesting propose. And excuse me, please give me 1 minute to check on all the numbers.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so here's the deal. Currently, our stadium has around 75% of the occupation rate, and it used to be 95. So I'm really glad to see that Mr. Diego can boost our kind of ticket sales in this way. So I think your proposal is very, very strong signal to the confidence that Mr. Diego can bring to the club. So for every ticket sold, we're willing to give you. Hold on. Okay. So there are altogether 50 games in a season. So if Mr. Diego can boost, let's say just 10% of the occupation rate, we're willing to increase our offer to 315,000, which means every game, every ticket, you get $0.1 for anything above 75% of ticket shares. So if you're confident that you can boost up to 90% of your 95% of the occupation rate, which we used to be, I think your whole income is gonna be something around 340,000 per year.
Okay, so you're saying if you boost attendance by 75 to 90, so 15% of attendance?
15 to 20%. 20% is going to be 340,000.
But so the way we see it, anything above 75% of attendance, he gets a share of that ticket.
Yes.
Right.
Anything above. But if it's below 75%, you also lose like 0.1.
Oh, but you can't charge someone if you lose. It's not his fault if people don't attend, right? It's like a bonus at work. You can't tell someone I'm going to reduce your salary because.
Since this is bad, you can't just go get all the positive side.
Yeah, but that's why we put a cap at 30,000 for the season to make it reasonable. I mean, we understand we can't just.
Don't you want to take the bet a little bit further? I mean, if the occupation rate is high, you're gonna get like a lot of bonuses around here.
No, I know, but you never know what can happen to the club, and then the club gets a bad reputation that has nothing to do with Diego, and then you're penalizing my client. That's a bit unfair for my client.
Okay. If you think that I mean, this is rewarding risk. It's
Right.
all the same, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the deal right now is base salary 220
Mhm.
with guaranteed position in the league
Yes.
another 60, and plus the bonuses of 75, anything above 75%
Yeah.
of the occupation rate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's the,
Up until 300,000, right?
Wait, so it's 220 base plus 60K bonus if they stay in the Division A.
220 base
Yes.
with
plus
60, yes. With
60K if they stay into the.
Yes.
So make it 280,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're saying another on top of that. Anything above 75% of the ticket sales, he gets a percentage of it.
Mm-hmm. And as you propose, with a limit of $300,000.
Okay.
So we get to the proportionate from 280 to 300 with a limit of 95%. So proportionate growth of your salary.
Right. And so, curious question: have you guys selected a captain for this season?
The captain? Not yet. But we had a very good guy actually. The one of our back. Sorry, in football terms, the backwards, middle, to be ideal people for this.
Okay. So it's going to be interesting to consider Diego as a possible captain and leader for the team, considering his experience.
We're definitely gonna consider him. I mean, based on his experience and everything.
Cool.
But let's just figure out until when he joins. See.
Yeah, no, he's. I'm sure I'll revert back to him. I'm sure he'll be very excited to start in 3 weeks.
Nice.
With your team. Yeah,
Nice.
and I'll keep you posted.
Looks like we got a deal.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nice meeting with you. Oh.